Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
God, I feel miserable today. What happened? I thought I drank enough water last night. Oh, my brain feels like it's pulling something, trying to make everybody fight. You seem cheery enough.
Yeah, boy, fresh as a daisy, ready to take on the day. Want to know how I does it?
To be like this, specifically?
See, Quattro Fontaine the fourth takes Z-Biotics. It's the probiotic drink you take before you drink. Want to know how it works, beaches?
Yes, but not from you, okay? You are way too much right now, and no one's gonna listen to all that copy from that voice. Take it away, voiceover guy.
Z-Biotics breaks down the alcohol byproduct responsible for rough mornings after drinking that hydrating alone can't always prevent. Take one bottle before you start drinking, and come tomorrow, you'll be ready to take on the day.
Hey, that's what I said!
Z-Biotics comes with a 100% money-back guarantee. Get 15% off your first order by clicking the link below and using the code REGRET at checkout.
Wait a minute, I thought I retired you.
Nope, you were off by 1 month.
Hey everyone, Brian Zane here with my AEW Dynamite review for Wednesday, September 14th, 2022. Thanks so much for watching this, and thanks to those of you who watched this week's countdown I posted on Wednesday, Wrestling's Least Likely World Champions. Got a lot of great feedback on that one as far as names I might have missed in the countdown. I agree that this is definitely a topic that could have warranted multiple installments or definite parts of the countdown, and there's definitely some names that I missed. A lot of people are bringing up, like Bryan Danielson and Rey Mysterio and Chris Benoit and a lot of other people of that ilk. And my reasoning as to why they weren't in this particular list was I was kind of going for people who were kind of like vanguards, or people who were kind of, it wasn't for this person, then a lot of the other people after them wouldn't have succeeded. So I put Bret Hart and CM Punk in those lists because, like, a lot of the names that were mentioned later on, those people probably wouldn't have been champions if it wasn't for the impact that those earlier folks had made. It was kind of my logic, and I wish I explained that a little bit better in the countdown, but that's why a lot of those popular names that show up in the comment section weren't in this countdown proper. But either way, I still appreciate the feedback. Maybe we'll get a sequel to that countdown in the future, but until then, let's get on with the Dynamite review. We are 1 week away from their big show, the Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe Stadium, where they will crown a new AEW champion, but we got a couple of tournament matches to get through first. The show begins with one of the semifinal matches as Jon Moxley takes on Sammy Guevara. I like this match a lot. Good pace, good back and forth with these two. Both got very physical. Sammy was able to kind of trade strikes and trade intensity with Moxley throughout this thing. At one point near the break, he kind of kicks the back of Moxley's head into the steps to take over. After the break, Moxley decks Guevara on the apron, takes a big flippy bump. They trade hold attempts at one point. Guevara counters a lariat attempt with a Spanish fly. Anna Jas, and Ty Mello make their way to the ring at that point, and with the referee distracted, Ty taking Moxley to Dick Kick City, but it's still not enough. William Regal on commentary asking if he'd be canceled if he referred to these ladies as harlots on the air. The GTH is countered into the Death Rider for Moxley to win and advance to the finals. I thought this was a very strong way to open up the show. Then it's time for MJF to make his way to the ring. He gets a big babyface pop when his music first plays, but he cuts off his music and really runs down the crowd in Albany, reminding you he's definitely a heel here, telling everyone to shut up repeatedly as he makes his promo. I don't know if manic is the right word to describe the style he has here, but he definitely feels on edge, very aggravated. It's a very different vibe than what even his heel side of his promo was last week after Moxley kind of lifted the veneer of his babyface charm, so to speak. He says he's very upset at Moxley for last week because he says he saw a look of no fear in Moxley's eyes and it pissed him off greatly. He says, that he's a different kid. He's not not the same kid that he was when they faced off a couple of years ago when MJF was doing the big kind of faux political rally along with the world title campaign. He's very different now. He's not playing a character, but Moxley is. He says Moxley puts on a great front, but he knows that deep down he's still the scared little boy who grew up in an abusive and a broken home in Cincinnati, but now he's old enough to drown his childhood trauma in alcohol. A very peculiar line from MJF when taken out of context, where he says, "My brain is more dangerous than your disease." He also does a callback to a promo Moxley cut in his first appearance after rehab, where he talks about fighting a demon, and MJF says that he is that demon, only this time Moxley won't be able to slay him. It's time now for MJF to introduce Stokely Hathaway and the Firm, the guys who all helped him win the ladder match at All Out, and he says that these guys are the first ever stable on retainer. He brings up he's known Stokely since he was 19 years old. They're best friends. I love they brought up the history of them in the indies together. So he introduces Stokely and the Firm. So you've got Lee Moriarty, W. Morrissey, the Gunn brothers, and Ethan Page. And they're all out there. And MJF at this point, he leaves. He's not part of this part of the promo anymore. But Stokely on the mic, he explains why they're all there and what he's been doing in the months he showed up since Double or Nothing, and how he was trying to get some roots in there, and all the things he had to do and all the things he had to put up with just to get on the ground floor and get infiltrated into the whole AEW system. Stokely with the caveat saying that unless MJF needs him, all these guys are going to go their separate ways. They're not really a team, but they're only a team like on call, which I think is a very interesting way of kind of classifying them. And he says he's not a publicist, a manager, or an assistant. He is a friend, and everyone wishes that they had a friend like Stokely. He talks up all the members of the Firm one by one. He talks about W. Morrissey and that he loves him, and he gives him this side hug. Great shot of him hugging Morrissey, who looks completely unfazed by this showing of emotion from Stokely. And he brings up Lee Moriarty, how he wants to win the ROH Pure Championship. Colton and Austin Gunn, they're not boys, they're men who are tired of living in the shadow of their broke-ass dad, and they want the AEW tag titles. And then he says Ethan Page at the end, he wants the All-Atlantic Championship. And he wraps up this stable that's not a stable has a catchphrase where you either run with the Firm or run from the Firm. And I thought this is, here's the promo that I wanted last week. Here's what I got upset about last week, and I'm like, why are you going to tease this and then take it away so soon? I'm glad that we got it tonight, where it's finally fleshed out in full detail about, why they're there. Stokely mentions blackmail in his promo, but I'm not entirely sure where that fit with the other stuff, with the other things he was talking about. Was he alluding that maybe there's blackmail against Tony Khan, which is how MJF got the spot back? That wasn't really made clear, but I think everything else that they did to explain their purpose, why they were brought together, and why they're there and how they're kind of on call for MJF, I thought that was very good. And the fact that they all have their own goals that they're working toward, I think that was kind of a good way to reestablish a lot of these guys, especially someone like Ethan Page, who's really, I think, been treading water for a long time since he's been doing the stuff with Man of the Year, the stuff with American Top Team. Just felt like he was kind of in the background there, but now that he's kind of being asserted as more kind of a singles guy again, I'm excited for Ethan Page's trajectory for sure. Jungle Boy taking on Jay Lethal in singles action next. They show a package explaining how the match was made, that Jungle Boy issued an open challenge earlier in the day, and that Sanjay Dutt answered the challenge on behalf of Jay Lethal. Great closing line. You're just a boy. You're just a boy. My best friend is a man. JB starting out strong here, but then Satnam Singh provides a distraction that allows Lethal to take over, working the previously injured back of Jungle Boy. And it's a couple points where Jack is trying to do some stuff, but his back keeps giving out. He does kick out of the top rope elbow from Lethal. He's able to come back here. The snare trap is attempted. Sanjay Dutt gets on the apron. Jungle Boy fights him off. Back into the snare trap. Lethal taps, and Jungle Boy wins. Big win for Jungle Boy here, for him to reassert himself. Beating someone on the caliber of Lethal is big, and for him to essentially fight off 2 to 3 men by himself at the end there, I thought was really impressive. So yeah, good win for Jungle Boy and a pretty good match. We get a little training montage with Hook and Action Bronson as they get ready for their match against Matt Menard and Angelo Parker next week at Arthur Ashe. And then we come to what is probably my favorite segment of the night. It's kind of a brief thing here, but you've got Alex Marvez backstage interviewing wrestling's premier pizza maker, Luigi Primo, who's been around for a while doing this gimmick, but he recently had a clip of him that went viral on social media where he's flipping the pizza dough while he's simultaneously wrestling, and it's a joy to watch in my opinion. So Luigi says his name and is immediately booted in the face by Ethan Page from off camera, and Ethan says he's trying to take things seriously around here, and just as he says that, in walks Danhausen. Here's a guy with some history with Page for sure, And so Page says he wants to be the king of the All-Atlantic division, so he's going to start by taking out the jester of AEW. And as he leaves, Danhausen's like, you and I will take out that jester, Egon. And then he realizes it's him and he goes, crap. I thought this was just an amazing segment. I loved it. We get highlights of Darby Allin at the Nitro Circus in New York this past weekend, and then we go right to a promo from Matt Hardy where he talks about Darby and says, hey, you know what, you're very extreme. He brings up the match that Darby had with Jeff Hardy a couple of months ago, and Matt reminds everyone that he's one of the founding members of Team Extreme, and so he's refocusing on his career and he wants to challenge Darby to a match this Friday on Rampage. On we go to Powerhouse Hobbs taking on newcomer Matt DiMartino, and it's a very quick match. It's one move. It's the spine buster. That's all she wrote. Hobbs destroys this guy in record time. It's such an impactful spine buster. Hobbs is bleeding from the mouth from his own move. Afterward, he grabs a mic. There's a big "We Want Ricky" chant, and Hobbs says it's time for him to start a new chapter after having beaten Starks at All Out. But as he's saying that, we see Starks making his way to the ring through the crowd. He gets at the ringside, storms the ring. They throw punches, and he hits Hobbs with the microphone, who powders, and Starks stands tall here. And like I figured at All Out, I knew that was not going to be the end of this storyline between the two of them. I felt that it ended on such an abrupt note. There had to be more to it. So looks like we're going to get a continuation of that feud down the line. I'm curious to see where they'll go from here and how they can maybe improve from their match at All Out. 2/3 of the Trios champions hope to become double champs like their buddy Pac when the Lucha Brothers challenge Swerve and Our Glory for the AEW tag team titles. This is a great match here. These four guys have amazing chemistry and they work really well together, especially the stuff with Phoenix and Swerve. That stuff was pretty magical. During the break, Keith Lee is hit with the double stomp yam bag in Taz's words. Like I said, good back and forth here. There's an amazing moment in the hot tag where Phoenix dives to the outside onto Keith Lee. He catches Ray and then just throws him back in the ring like a lawn dart to break up the pinfall. I've never seen that done quite that way before. And then, to me, the highlight of this match is Penta jumping off of Phoenix's back, hitting a Canadian destroyer on Keith Lee. Not many people can say they've hit that man with a destroyer. And I have said before, historically, it's not my favorite move in the world. I think it's obviously been overdone in this current era. But when something like that happens to a man that big, a destroyer like that, I'll make an exception. Lee ends up hitting Penta with a big old slam to win the match. The champions retain. Not too long to celebrate until the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn interrupt. And no raps from Max Caster here. They cut the music off, and Caster basically tells Swerve never to cut him off again like they did last week. And then they reiterate that they are that the uncrowned champions will in fact become crowned next week at Arthur Ashe. And I said last week, and I'll say it again, if All Out's any indication, I can only hope that they come close to the magic they had in that match up there. And I really hope that we get a different outcome and the feel-good story of Caster and Bowens winning the tag belts there. But either way, I'm just really hopeful it's going to be a good match. Marvez is backstage again, trying to get a word with Death Triangle, and Pac takes offense to Marvez, saying that loss was a bump in the road. As he's talking, though, suddenly we see Orange Cassidy come in from out of nowhere, lay out Pac with an orange punch, and make his intentions known. He wants the All-Atlantic Championship, and we find out that match is going to happen next week at the Grand Slam show. We see Serena Deeb next, and Britt Baker taking on Toni Storm and Athena. There's a pre-match promo package where Toni basically telling Britt, hey, get your stuff in order with your so-called friend Jamie Hayter, because you're nothing without her, essentially. Serena doing a lot of the work early on, wearing down Athena. She and Britt take turns working Athena's leg, but she is able to persist. Toni's on her own after the hot tag when Athena is taken out of the ring. Britt is able to hold up a chair when the referee, distracted by Rebel, Toni, I should say, gets thrown into the chair. The cover and the baddies win here dirty, but then after the bell, they descend upon the heels. But then Jamie Hayter, who gets a big babyface pop, she makes her way to the ring, grabs a chair from Britt, and then hits Toni with it a couple of times. But I was expecting, oh, it's a swerve. She's actually teaming with Britt all along, and that's kind of the setup. But we don't get that. And so she hits Toni with the chair, and then she's still mad at Britt, and she yells at her, and Britt, you can hear her say, I said I was sorry, and Jamie is still mad. So what does this mean exactly? We don't know for sure. We know that the four ladies who were in this tag team match are going to be in a four-way match for the Interim Women's Championship next week, but Jamie Hayter's still not a part of that, and she might play a role in that match next week. But the build between this blow-up with Hayter and Britt is pretty interesting, and I think there's a lot of great babyface momentum for Jamie here. She's been kind of lurking in the shadows, being the heavy for Britt for so long. It's not quite a Wardlow MJF situation, because it's not the same kind of relationship, but I think that when Jamie eventually does kind of make that official breaking off and kind of puts Britt away, I think that's going to be a big moment for her. We find out Josh Woods is challenging Samoa Joe for the ROH TV title this Friday on Rampage. Then we go to our main event. It's the second semifinal match in the Grand Slam Tournament of Champions as Chris Jericho takes on Bryan Danielson, the rematch from All Out. One key difference between this match and the one at All Out, Chris Jericho is not adjusting his pants nearly as much as he did at the pay-per-view. The beginning of this match is all Danielson. He's very aggressive with all the kicks basically Jericho's way, but Jericho is able to get somewhat of reestablish control just before the commercial break. It's a very aggressive match between the two of them here. It's very similar to what they did at All Out, and I was very entertained by this as well. Danielson locking in cattle mutilation at one point once again. Daniel appears to roll his ankle when he's dumped on the outside, and Jericho tries to take advantage of that. We get the figure four wrapped around the ring post, single leg crab, really working the leg holds for a while here. Danielson is able to recover as he fights to get the label lock put in. You can hear Willie Reeves on commentary going, "Come on, sunshine, come on." I love that delivery there. So Jericho taps to the label lock. Danielson finally getting his first win over Chris Jericho for the first time since they began fighting each other in 2010. So it's wild that Danielson never got that win until tonight. So that's the finals for the championship next week in the tournament. It's Blackpool Combat Club versus Blackpool Combat Club, Moxley versus Danielson. We get the stare down between the two of them in the ring after the bell. We get a handshake, and that's how the show wraps up. We fade to black there. That was a terrific main event. Like I said, this match was very much on par with what they had at All Out, which I really enjoyed. And yeah, again, really cool to see Danielson get that win back. And I'm going to make a prediction right now. I think for the championship match, Danielson will win. I think he'll get that win back against Moxley because it is the rematch from when they faced off many months ago, and that of course led to the creation of the Blackpool Combat Club. So we'll see where it goes, but I'm really excited to see how that all plays out. And oh, where's MJF going to fit into all this, by the way, next week? Because MJF said some prophetic words about that in his promo. So what's going to happen? Not entirely sure, but I'm definitely waiting with bated breath, so to speak, about what's going to happen in the championship match next week. My grade for this week's Dynamite is a B-. This is another solid show, definitely good for building toward what is going to be obviously the bigger show next week at Arthur Ashe. So nothing really tremendous or crazy happening on this show, just a lot of just kind of like basically moving the ball forward and getting the storyline progressed here. I like that we got an explanation from Stokely Hathaway and the Firm. I liked a lot of the matches we saw tonight. The two tournament matches were great. The tag title match was awesome. And of course, Luigi Primo, I popped big for that segment. So overall, pretty strong show, but I bet you that they're really going to pull out all the stops here for next week's show at Arthur Ashe. But what did you think of Dynamite this week, folks? And what do you think is going to happen next week for the finals of the tournament? What's your prediction? I want to hear it in the comment section below. But until then, I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.